They built the largest moving object in human history. 882 feet of steel, 46,000 tons of ambition, 3 million rivets hammered by hand, one, by 15,000 men who started work at 6 in the morning and didn't stop until the sun went down. A ship so grand, so unsinkable that even God couldn't touch it. But here is the part they don't tell you. Before the Titanic killed 1,500 people in the Atlantic, it was already killing people in Belfast. 8 men died building her. 246 were injured, arms severed by machines, legs crushed under falling steel, and the very first victim, the first person the Titanic ever took, was not a passenger, not a captain, not a millionaire. It was a 15-year-old boy named Samuel. Stay until the end, because what happened to him after he died is a story Belfast tried to bury for over 100 years. This is the story of Belfast, the city that built the most famous ship in history, where dreams were hammered into steel and men were ground into dust. Using AI technology, we've reconstructed what this city looked like at the dawn of the 20th century, bringing historical photographs and shipyard records back to life. In 1808, Belfast was a town of 25,000 people. A quiet place at the head of a loft, known for nothing much at all. First came linen. The flax mills multiplied and Belfast earned a new name, Linenopolis. 35,000 workers, most of them women and children, feeding thread into machines from dawn to dusk. Then came iron. In 1859, Edward Harland bought a small shipyard on Queen's Island. He was joined by Gustav Wolff, a German engineer from Hamburg. Together, they would turn that muddy island into the largest shipbuilding operation the world had ever seen. By 1900, Belfast had exploded to 349,000 people. Its skyline was dominated by cranes and gantries. 15,000 men clocked in every morning at Queen's Island, each carrying a wooden time board that doubled as their identity, their paycheck, and their lifeline. Belfast's shipyards were producing a quarter of the United Kingdom's total tonnage. 1 in 8 of every ship built in the world came from this city. Belfast wasn't just building ships, Belfast was building empires. Every morning at 5:30, thousands of men poured out of the terraced houses of East Belfast. Boots on cobblestones, lunch wrapped in cloth, all heading toward the gates. The yard. Inside, the noise was beyond anything you can imagine. They called it the Racket. Thousands of hammers striking rivets simultaneously. Men who worked there went deaf. No earplugs, no harnesses, no hard hats, just men and steel and gravity. The riveting squads were the backbone of every ship. 5 men, a heater boy who kept rivets white-hot in burning coals, a catch boy who grabbed them mid-air with iron tongs, a holder-on who drove them into the hole, and 2 riveters who hammered them flat. Many of these boys were 13, 14, 15 years old. Cheap, disposable, replaceable. One of those boys was Samuel Joseph Scott, 15 years old. He lived on Templemore Street, just a short walk from the shipyard gates. His father was dead. His mother shared a 2-up, 2-down with 6 children and another family. 12 people in all. Samuel had recently moved to his own lodgings down the street. A boy living alone, working a man's job. His job was to catch white-hot rivets thrown through the air and guide them into place, hundreds of times a day. High above the ground on narrow scaffolding with no safety net below. On the 31st of March, 1909, the keel of yard number 401 was laid. Not Titanic, not yet, just a number. The hull required over 2,000 steel plates, each weighing up to 3 tons, held together by more than 3 million rivets. A gantry towered 228 feet into the sky. The anchor was the largest ever forged. It took 20 horses to drag it to the station. 882 feet long, 92 feet wide, 46,000 tons, the largest moving object ever created by human hands. And inside, a swimming pool, Turkish baths, a grand staircase, first-class suites that cost more than a riveter would earn in a lifetime. But on the 20th of April, 1910, the dream cracked. That afternoon, Samuel climbed the scaffolding as he did every day. Nobody saw what happened next. A riveter working nearby looked down and saw a boy lying motionless on the ground far below, bleeding, silent. Samuel had fallen more than 60 feet into the open hull. The coroner recorded shock following fracture of the skull. His family received 16 shillings in compensation. They used it to bury him in an unmarked grave in Belfast City Cemetery. 16 shillings. For the first life the Titanic ever took. Work resumed the next morning. Belfast in 1910 was a city split by money. On the Malone Road, the shipyard owners lived in mansions with servants and chauffeurs. Lord Peary, the chairman of Harland and Wolff, was one of the wealthiest men in Ireland. In 1906, Belfast unveiled its crown jewel, the City Hall. A Baroque palace of white Portland stone with a dome rising 173 feet over Donegal Square. Inside, Italian marble staircases and stained glass windows. It cost £369,000, funded by the city's gasworks profits. Belfast was announcing to the world, "We have arrived." But walk 15 minutes east from that marble staircase into the shadow of the shipyard cranes, and you entered a different city entirely. In East Belfast, 12 people in a 2-room house, open sewers, no running water. In 1891 alone, nearly 1,800 people in Belfast died of respiratory disease. The medical officer called Ballymacarrot, the neighborhood closest to the shipyard, a lost cause. These were the hands that built the Titanic. The men who riveted her hull couldn't afford to ride her. A first-class suite cost more than a lifetime's wages. They built the dream, they just weren't invited to live in it. On the 31st of May, 1911, 100,000 people watched the hull of yard number 401 slide into the River Lagan. The launch took 62 seconds. Belfast erupted with pride. 9 Harland and Wolff men sailed with her on the maiden voyage. The Guarantee Group. Among them Thomas Andrews, the chief designer, and Alfred Cunningham, a 21-year-old apprentice from Belfast. Being selected was the greatest honor of his young career. Not one of the 9 survived. When the news reached Belfast on April the 15th, the city fell silent. The hammers stopped. The Racket went quiet. 1,500 people were dead, and among them 9 of Belfast's own. Alfred Cunningham's mother waited days. Initial reports confused him with a surviving steward of the same surname. The telegram finally arrived on April the 26th. Her son was gone, and then Belfast stopped talking about the Titanic. For decades, no memorials, no museums, no commemorations. The shame was too deep. Instead, a dark joke emerged. One Belfast still repeats. She was fine when she left here. Today, a gleaming museum shaped like 4 ships' bows rises from the exact spot where the Titanic was built. It won Europe's leading tourist attraction, beating the Eiffel Tower. The slipways are now public spaces etched with the Titanic's outline in white stone. The giant yellow cranes, Samson and Goliath, still tower over the skyline. A city that once tried to forget the Titanic has made her the centerpiece of its identity. But there is one more detail you should know. For 101 years, Samuel Joseph Scott lay in an unmarked grave. No headstone, no name, just grass. In 2011, Belfast residents finally gave him a headstone. The inscription ends with the words the Titanic's band supposedly played as she went down. "Nearer, my God, to thee." Belfast built the Titanic. But the story didn't begin in the Atlantic. It began in a city of narrow streets and deafening noise. In the hands of boys catching fire, in the silence of a mother who last saw her son walking to work on an April morning. If this story moved you, take a moment to subscribe and tell me in the comments, which city's hidden history should we reconstruct next?